My name is Cheryl Neckerman. I'm the moderator for this evening's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We put an emphasis on voting. We do not endorse candidates or political parties. This evening, we will give you an opportunity to gather information about the candidates for County Legislator District 3, Niskayuna Town Board, and Niskayuna Town Supervisor to help you make voting decisions. All of the candidates who will be on the ballot on November 7th have been invited to tonight's forum. Now, the League's policy stipulates that candidates running for an office unopposed cannot take part in the formal part of the forum. Michelle Martinelli is running for Town Clerk unopposed. Is Ms. Martinelli in the audience? No. Okay. And Stephen Switten Jr. is running for Town Justice, also unopposed. And I know Mr. Switten could not attend tonight. We had allowed time at the end of the forum for you to talk to these people, but they're not here, so we won't have to do that. Now, all of these candidates are serving our community and participating in the democratic process by their willingness to run for office, and we really appreciate their effort. Okay. Now, for each office, candidates will have a 2-minute opening statement, 1 minute to answer each question, and a 1-minute closing statement. We have timers who will hold up a yellow card when you have 30 seconds left, and a red card when it's time for the candidates to stop. And we will let you finish the sentence, but keep it within reason. During the questioning time of the forum, the order of candidates will be varied so that one person is not always going first. After each statement or question, please hold your applause until all the candidates have spoken to give everyone plenty of time to answer questions. Okay. Now we are going to start off with County Legislator. Okay, we have 4 people running for District 3 of the County Legislator. We have Stacy Agostino, who is here tonight. We have Thomas Constantine, who could not be present, Michelle Osterlich, who is here tonight, and Anthony Simone, who is not present. And we will start off with Ms. Agostino as the first question. Well, no, with the opening statement.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity.
Is your microphone on? No. You have to push the button there. There.
Okay, do I have to push it every time? Do I have to on?
Well, the mic will be on now that you've pushed it.
Okay,
and it will
so
stay
you
on.
don't want me to turn it off when I'm done?
No, you can keep it on.
Okay. So let's start over. Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to reach out to the voters in Niskayuna. And to thank those who are in attendance and watching online. Local elections are not as flashy, but they are so important. And I'm grateful that you recognize that. I am Stacy Agostino, a Glenville resident since 2016. As a newbie to the community, I knew that I needed to throw myself into local activities to really get a sense of my new home. I joined Glenville's History, Culture, and Events Committee and immediately learned the ins and the outs and the rich history of my town. I joined the Scotia Glenville Republican Committee to learn how I could work towards shaping the direction of my new home, and the Schenectady County Republican Women's Club to find a way to empower other women to be a voice wherever they called home in this county. I joined the Glenville Rotary because I had just 1 free minute after everything else to cover all the other areas of service. I am now vice president of the latter 2. My professional background is in public service. For the last 17 years, I've worked with legislators at the state and federal levels, where I did everything from resolve constituent issues, research programs to implement in the communities my office served, developed relationships with business and community leaders, and answered tough questions on very difficult topics. My 17 career has been one long lesson in how to serve one's friends, family, and neighbors in the county legislator role that I seek. Most importantly, and most fulfilling, I am a wife and stepmom. I am proud of the life that we have created together. It's far from perfect, but it's full of love, and I strive to serve in that area before all others. My priorities in this office are all of the other families in Niskayuna, Glenville, and Scotia. They need to feel safe. They need to afford where they live. Their businesses need to thrive, and they need to want to stay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Osterlich, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone for being here tonight. It's wonderful to actually see such a big crowd. And thank you always to League of Women Voters who run these forums for every single election. I imagine it is always on your minds. So I'm Michelle Osterlich. I have been a county legislator now for 4 years. I was first appointed and then elected. And I love this job. My colleagues are extraordinary. The work that we do is incredibly meaningful, and I'm looking forward to telling you more about the work that we do and the 4 years ahead. But first I want to look back just a little bit. When I was first appointed and then elected, the pandemic started shortly thereafter, and I was chair of the Health, Housing, and Human Services Committee. So my role, I certainly did not stop, but in fact, rolled up my sleeve and worked at the Emergency Relief Center that the county had set up at the Boys and Girls Club. And that was a privilege because not only did I work there with some of my colleagues, a vast majority of the county employees who are not required to work also gave of their time. And I'm looking out at this crowd and I've seen a couple of you, and especially the town employees in Niskayuna came and helped out at the Boys Club. This is an amazing community. I know you all know it, but it's worth having folks up here at the dais saying it to you. The folks here give of their heart, give of their passion and their talents, and I've only seen that more and more in the last 4 years in all the challenges we've faced. I moved here 18 years ago with my husband and then one little girl. Now we have a 16 and 18-year-old, and we are blessed to be living in Niskayuna. And I'm grateful for having served on many boards in town and in our community, and now in this role as your county legislator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, now it's time for the first question, which we'll start with Ms. Osterlich. What are the 3 biggest issues that you think we face in Niskayuna, and what could you do to help as a county legislator?
In 1 minute.
1 minute.
I think the 3 things that are of the largest priority is always going to be making sure that we, our families and our residents, have what they need to take care of the folks that they love. The second would be roadway safety, to be honest with you. It's growing worse. I would say drivers are getting worse and worse every day, certainly since the pandemic. And third would be public safety, and I suspect we'll have a chance to go a little bit more in depth on each of those topics. But I've certainly noticed a lot of our culture is really rushed these days, and I'm hoping that we can all learn a little bit more tonight about how important those priorities are to your friends and your neighbors throughout the evening.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Agostino, what do you think are the 3 biggest issues in Niskayuna?
So 2 of the issues that I've heard when going door to doors and actually speaking with some of the residents, there are the traffic issues, and I think that takes a good amount of collaboration with our town and state officials. The county, the town, and the state, they all have their own roads, and it does take a good amount of compromise and working with those agencies. Another, I would say. Not I would say, but a few residents have said is the affordability, and that's a big piece of, I think, the county as a whole. We've seen a lot of out-migration on the state level. We've seen it in our communities. I talked to 2 residents who said, I'd love to vote for you, but I am leaving as soon as I can, and that's really sad and upsetting because this is a beautiful community. Another is also public safety, and I do hope that we do address that a little bit later because as the wife of a police officer, I feel like I've got some perspective on that.
Okay, thank you. And we are going to start the next question with Ms. Agostino. You finish the last one and you start the next one.
All right.
Okay, when presented with the asylum seeker issue, how will you tackle the issue to ensure the best outcome for your community?
That's a lot to tackle in a minute, and I think it does the issue a disservice. I think we've got the asylum seekers that are here, and we need to address how we're going to move forward with that. I think that there are other communities who are better prepared to take them going forward. Communities that have stepped out and said that we are sanctuary cities. We accept that burden, and maybe are more prepared financially with the schools, with the healthcare systems that are going to be burdened by people that we weren't expecting. But that they're here, we need to equip our schools to be able to handle that. We need to make sure that we can screen people quickly and find ways that we can put them out there helping, working. I know work is, there are many hurdles to that even for us, but I think there are ways that we can use them.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Osterlich, how would you tackle the issue of asylum seekers?
First, I think there is an important tone that needs to be set in leadership. That is, these are guests in our community who have done everything right by our laws. They came to a port of entry, they have applied for asylum, and they have a right to be here under our laws. And while they're here, we have so many folks working hard to make sure that their experience, because they cannot work, their experience livable, frankly. So our county manager and our public health department has worked hard to make sure that the kids here are school ready. There are volunteer organizations and agencies that are making sure that families have clothes and essentials that are not being provided by DocGo. And it's also advocacy to make sure that our schools know the resources that they have available, being that conduit of advocacy to our federal government and our state government to make sure that we all have the resources that we can provide to the asylum seekers and to our own residents.
Okay, thank you. Now the next question for Ms. Osterlich. Taxes are high in Niskayuna. As a county legislator, what can you do to help lower taxes?
Thank you. I'm going to first point out, I know this is a bit of a cop-out, but the biggest part of our tax bills, of course, are the schools. And our schools are excellent. Most of the folks I talked to moved here and live here because of our excellent school system. And in fact, our property values stay consistently high because of our excellent schools. On the county level, our property tax, I'm very proud to say, has been 0% increase. And in fact, our property tax are now less than in 2016 because we take our priority very seriously. It is to shepherd and hold those hard-earned tax dollars very carefully and spend them wisely. In addition, we're offering STAR-eligible homeowners a rebate this year, and checks will be coming out later this year. And there's a lot of savings that we do in county government, both for our own government as well as our local municipals. So I'll talk about that later. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Agostino, what would you do to help lower taxes?
Okay, so to add, I think our state mandates are also a big burden on the affordability, but a big piece of that is that we can't add to those mandates. And I think that there are areas that we've kind of gone above and beyond what I think is necessary or required. Additionally, I know that there was a proposal to actually lessen the sales tax burden, and that was something that was not looked at the county. And I think that could have been something that 0.5% is still 0.5% in a different direction. And so I think looking at different proposals that would lessen a burden would be helpful to Niskayuna, but also our Glenville and Scotia residents and throughout the county as well.
Thank you. All right, the next question, and we'll be starting with Ms. Agostino. Public safety is a big concern on everyone's minds. What could you do if elected to better the situation in your community?
Okay, so my husband is Glenville Sergeant Mark Agostino, and he's a wealth of knowledge over his 20 years, and so I've seen some of the things that have come through our town, and there are a lot of things that have come through the state that are going to make things a little bit more challenging for us. One thing that I think that we can really work towards is we now have we've allowed recreational marijuana, and that's neither here nor there. That's what's happening, and we need to just kind of provide more resources to make sure that we are addressing possibly use while driving. I know that there's a concern at many levels for many residents that that's something that should be addressed. There's also, again, some proposals that weren't really looked at the county level that could have kind of shored up some safety issues in the village of Scotia. So I think looking at some of those would be helpful to the law enforcement, but also to the residents.
Thank you. Ms. Osterlich, how would you better the situation of public safety?
The county government's role with public safety is supporting our first responders. That's EMS, fire, and police. And what we've done over the past 4 years are plenitude. So we have done a combined communication center. So when you call 911, we've taken that burden off of our localities to do it at the county level, which is a huge savings. We've instituted a countywide radio system, whereas there were many, many different radio systems that were obsolete. We have one that took that cost burden off of our EMS, fire, and police. We also have a street crimes task force and drug task force with recognition that folks who want to do bad things don't recognize town, city, or village lines. And what I'm really thrilled about is the current administration of our town, Jamie Puccioni, especially Jessica Brennan and the rest of the team, have fully staffed the police department so that they are now able to participate in those task forces. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question for Ms. Osterlich. What does environmental sustainability mean to you? Do you believe it's important that our town work toward being more sustainable? Why or why not?
So protecting the environment is top priority. It has to be. We have no other choice, and the costs are actually growing by not addressing our environmental concerns. And I've been a strong advocate. It means reducing our carbon footprint, and it means investing in renewable energies and making sure our air and water sources are clean. In the county level, we've got a solar consortium, not just reducing carbon footprint, which is fabulous, but also saving all of our municipalities lots of money. We've converted to LED lights, which is a significant savings. We have hazardous waste collections. We've gone no pesticides at our local libraries. We have adopted policies about trees and shade and other community action plans. We've done a lot to protect our aquifer, given free bus passes to our employees to encourage public transportation. And in this campaign, you'll see on my website a series of videos highlighting our local parks and preserves, and I hope that you will enjoy those videos. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Agostino, what does environmental sustainability mean to you, and how would you work towards that in the town?
I think environmental sustainability, climate protection, I think these are important topics, and I feel that it is something that we should work toward. However, not at the expense of our businesses and people that would be potentially burdened by some overreaching policies. I know at the state they've passed down a number of policies that are going to make potentially housing more unaffordable, and other mandates that I think we need to kind of address at a county level to make those policies something that we can work with, but also to just not pass a burden of sustainability onto businesses that may need to work within a very small budget. Same for our organizations, our nonprofits.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Ms. Agostino. So New York State passed and signed into legislation several bills to make it easier to vote in New York State. One bill will allow early voting by absentee ballot, and another creates a day for same-day registration and voting as part of early voting. And how do you feel about these bills?
I'm not in favor of one of the bills that was mail-in voting, only because there are, this is something that was put out to voters and voters rejected it. And what the state did was they reworded it and passed it in a different way. They passed it, it was something that was rejected, and I think that's not fair to take that out of the hands of the voters who thought that this might be an issue. And the other was same-day registration.
Right.
Same-day registration. All for making sure that everyone who can vote does vote. And however we can ensure that the people that should be voting, that can vote, are voting, then I think that's an important thing to promote and to allow.
Okay, thank you. All right, our next, yes. So Ms. Osterlich, what are your views on these recent changes to make voting easier?
I think it's important to start off by saying that our voting process is secure and reliable. I have had so many conversations with our commissioners over at the Board of Elections to talk about the audit process, to talk about voter purge and how that happens. And I feel incredibly secure that folks cannot vote in 2 counties, that you really only get 1 vote. And a lot of people have many jobs and lots of obligations, and it's hard, even with early voting, it's still hard to vote. The more people who turn out to vote, the better our democracy is. That's the bottom line. And we want to encourage people to vote and make it easier for people to vote. If we could vote on our phones, I know we don't do that yet. I know there's a lot that would have to happen, but imagine the turnout for those elections if we could just click. I think that some of the concerns about early or absentee voting, it worked during the pandemic. You know, we didn't need a reason to vote absentee, and it was fine, and it was great turnout. So I appreciate all of the work that the advocacy of the League of Women Voters has done on that issue in particular.
Okay, thank you. Now for Ms. Osterlich, what plans do you have to make Niskayuna more walkable?
I think this hits a little bit of the roadway safety that I talked about at the beginning. So I'll talk about a little bit of what the county has done already. We're talking the Knott Street improvement. We've got sidewalks on both sides of the streets. We've got crosswalks that are button activated. And we're looking at doing an extension of the sidewalk down to where Baker and Lexington is, that little hole between Niskayuna and Schenectady. And as the county, little push of that forward. I'd love to see a sidewalk on Rosendale Road where the 2 schools are, and Leisha. I think that would be an important asset to have. And if you look all around, Grand Boulevard has just received another grant to redo some of their walkability and their walking paths. And that will include, of course, community engagement to see how folks who live there and in the area would prefer that to happen. I think that's important. And engineering solutions are important for our safety to make sure that pedestrians and cyclists as well can share the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Agostino, how would you make Niskayuna more walkable?
That's kind of tough for me to answer, being on the outside of a legislative role, but I do know that the importance of walkability in a community, it's key for business development, for safety of students, and just overall enhanced wellness and recreation. I know in my town, in Glenville, we've had a huge push on increased sidewalks, and it's benefited us, I think, tremendously. I have taken advantage of one of our sidewalks. It's connected me to from my neighborhood to our town center. I use it once a week. I use it with my dogs. I go to get some groceries, and I feel it's an important step in making our communities just more vibrant and connected. So I think that should be a priority for us.
Okay, and this will be the last question before we go to closing statements. Ms. Agostino? With the economy in bad shape with high gas and food prices, what would you do to lessen the burden on senior citizens age 65 and older?
Okay, I think incentives for different groups has worked as just to kind of give back to what to kind of counter some of the affordability issues that I mentioned before. So I think offering opting in to offer different credits could benefit our seniors.
Thank you. Ms. Osterlich, what would you do to lessen the burden on senior citizens?
The tax rebate for star property owners, I think, is significant. That will help seniors in particular. We also have senior long-term care at the county level, and it has a lot of programs that will help seniors. There's sliding scale for some of them, like an assistant in the home just to tidy up, and other programs. Quality of life really is what it's all about, as well as affordability. It is expensive to live here, and inflation is hitting folks really bad. Gas prices are high, food prices are high, and we've seen our food pantries be utilized much more than in the past. So it is important to be cognizant in everything that we do to spend our tax dollars wisely. And seniors are a vital part of our community, and it is important to make sure that we can age here safely, and there's even Glendale Home, so seniors can stay in our community if they even need to be in a nursing home. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll start our closing statements, and Ms. Osterlich will go first.
Sure. Again, I want to thank everyone for being here and the League of Women Voters for hosting. I have to thank my husband, because you don't do these types of positions without a lot of support, and including the girls at home. It's wonderful to have raised them in this community. They have seen friends and neighbors who have stepped up to the plate time and time again, whether it is a crisis like a flood or a pandemic, or if it's just a friend or a neighbor in need. And I just want to make sure we have 2 minutes.
1 minute.
Oh, just 1 minute. Okay. Well then, I'll talk fast. So I hope you've learned a little bit about who I am, what I bring to the county legislature, and tonight I hope I've earned your confidence and your vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Agostino.
I want to offer my thanks as well, and also to Michelle and the other candidates who are participating, because this is such a vital part of the process. It's clear that we all have the same goal, and that is what is the best of the residents of this town. Where we differ, however, is in what we believe is the best way to get there. I feel like my way of getting to a solution is one that applies logic, common sense, and one that looks for balance. This has been my approach to work challenges and organizational leadership, and I encourage anyone with any further questions to reach out. I really do enjoy hearing what are things that we can do better, what's done well, and what we can improve on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we can give a round of applause for our and we'll get ready for the next set of candidates for town board.
The yellow is the
Thank you for honesty.
Yeah. Will sent me a picture today. Oh no, it's so bad. There's some kind of filter on your phone. Just tell your kids never do this. Oh you guys. This is it for yes, I'm going to I got one. I screamed. Huh?
Okay, we're about ready to get started for the town board candidates, and I just wanted to mention that our candidate for town clerk, Michelle Martinelli, is in the audience. If you'd like to stand up, there you are. And she will be available to talk to you after the end of the forum. Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead with the town board candidates. We have 4 candidates. We have Jessica Brennan, who's not able to be here tonight, Dr. Jerome Chow, who is here, Mr. Joey Feisey, who is not here, and William McPartland, who is here. Thank you.
Oh, that's no problem.
That's why you're supposed to wear a name tag. Okay, so let's start off with opening statements with Dr. Chow.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Chow. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. I know to everybody it's a very important forum, and I know a lot went into arranging this. As you know, I'm a physician in private practice in town. My wife, Katie, and I, well, you guys may know Katie. She's a local activist who co-founded Progressive Schenectady. We both raised both of our children here in Niskayuna, and I credit raising them here for providing the foundation for their success and our family's success. Matthew just graduated from Princeton, and Maddie is pursuing her doctorate in psychology. And so living in Niskayuna has provided my family and myself much success, and I feel strongly that I have to give back to the community that supported us so much. Hence, the reason I'm running for town council. I hope that in this forum you'll be able to learn why you should consider voting for me in November. Thanks.
Thank you. And Mr. McPartland, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event this evening. I want to thank the residents for allowing me to serve for 2 terms here on the town board in Niskayuna. I've lived in the town for 50 years. I'm a graduate of Niskayuna High School, raised my family here, my 2 children, and I'm running for another term to continue what I guess I'm committed to this town of Niskayuna that I love. It's a great place to live, raise a family, and that's why I got involved in
Taxes.
Okay, thank you. Now, Dr. Chow, what does environmental sustainability mean to you? Do you believe it's important that our town work toward being more sustainable?
Absolutely. Everybody, not everybody, a lot of people in this room know that I drive an electric vehicle. In fact, it's parked outside, plugged in, so I can use some of my tax money to charge it up for going to work tomorrow. Now, sustainability is very, very important. We actually don't have enough chargers in town. I think the more chargers we have, the more we can encourage people to get EVs, because that's one of the biggest complaints about electric vehicles is that we don't have the infrastructure in order to charge these vehicles. You know, ShopRite used to have chargers, now they don't have chargers, and it would be nice to find out how come they don't have them. Schenectady, down by the town hall, they've got chargers galore near the library. The library should have some. We shouldn't only have chargers over here by town hall. So yes, sustainability is important. We're going to have to continue to work on that by supporting the residents of Niskayuna. Time's up.
Thank you. Mr. McPartland, how would you work towards making the town more sustainable?
Well, we do work towards making the town of Niskayuna more sustainable. As Jerome said, we have chargers right here at Town Hall. We also have some in the parks that we've gotten installed with grant money and some funding from the town. So we've gone and done those things. One thing that we are doing in the town of Niskayuna is our wastewater treatment plant and the upgrades that we've made to that plant to make that a state-of-the-art facility that down the road is going to be net zero, meaning that we are working to make the plant so that all the energy that it consumes to dry sludge and produce electricity will be produced by us processing the waste at the plant. This is a state-of-the-art plant that we bonded money for in the town, and that is really a future environmental thing that I think you're going to see most municipalities doing in the next 15 to 20 years. And we also have a great program for trees, replanting trees in the town. And my time's up.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. McPartland, what in general would you do to lower the high taxes in Niskayuna?
Work very hard on keeping our town taxes low. And if you read your tax bill, we're going to have a little presentation at the town board in the future of the tax bills, because people often just say, oh, taxes are high. All taxes that you pay are not the responsibility of your local town officials. We are responsible for the town tax. That's the town general tax, the town highway, town water and sewer taxes. We also have county taxes on your tax bill. You also have a fire district tax on your tax bill and other taxes. So while I've been here, as I said in my opening statement, we've worked hard to keep our taxes low. We've had years with 0 increases and some all with single digits, some around 1% and never higher than 2.5, I believe, in the time that I've been on the board.
Thank you. Dr. Chow, what in general would you do to lower the high taxes in Niskayuna?
I think the first thing I would look at is the other communities or towns that were able to lower their taxes. I think it's a very rare thing to lower taxes, but it actually happens. And so one of the things we need to do is look at those towns and see what they did, what they were able to do in order to lower those taxes. That would be the first step.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Chow, what will you do to support public safety in Niskayuna?
So that's a good question, because I'm actually a police officer for Schenectady County, as well as a physician, and so I've been talking to a lot of the police officers, not only in this town but in our neighboring towns, about what's needed. So this town does have some problems with the police department. Even though if you look in the parking lot, we have a lot of police cars in there, but there are only 4 of them that are working right now adequately. We're about, Bill could answer this question better, I think we're 3 or 4 police officers short of a full deck in terms of making sure that we have enough police officers to do the work that we need to do in this town. So I think we need to take a close look, because public safety is important. It's not only crime, but also safety on the streets. I don't know if you hear these cars going by all the time nowadays. In the last 2 years, all I hear is like super loud exhaust cars going by my house, and that wasn't the case 2 years ago, and the accidents. So we'll have to definitely take a very, very close look at that.
Thank you. And Mr. McPartland, what will you do to support public safety in Niskayuna?
So to support public safety, what we have done is we have never cut our police budget. We have never cut the staffing budget for the police department while I've been here. What we have had difficulty with is staffing, like all municipal police departments have had trouble with. We are working very hard to get that up. On the phone today with the chief, telling me that possibly 2 more hires that we're going to be having here in Niskayuna. We're working very hard to get our staffing up and recruit and retain quality officers in our town. We've improved the morale in the police department. I was on the Police Reform and Reinvention Committee that was passed down by Governor Cuomo, which got us to body-worn cameras here with our police department. We are now going to be reestablishing our traffic division. We had a traffic division before COVID, and then when COVID hit, we lost a lot of officers, people got out of policing, but that's going to be reestablished very soon.
Okay, and Mr. McPartlin, where do you stand on preserving open space in Niskayuna?
We're very fortunate in the town of Niskayuna to have a lot of parks and open space, and preserving that is very important to myself and the town residents. That's why people come here to live in the town of Niskayuna. They've got a park that's very close down the road. We have a lot of, parks, and we've made a lot of investments in our parks and our park facilities. We've worked very hard to get grant money for our parks, the River Road Park, Blackneck Park. These are all parks we've made improvements at. Avon Crest Park, we've made improvements over there with the pickleball courts. We continue to spend money to keep our parks to the best that they can be.
Thank you. And Dr. Chow, where do you stand on preserving open space in Niskayuna?
My stance is that we need to preserve the open space in Niskayuna. I use the open space, not everybody in this community probably uses the open space. I think what Bill is mentioning is very important, that monies are always allotted towards preserving and improving the open spaces that we have. Another thing is, one of my colleagues, she had a fair number of acres. This was just across the border in Colony. And she ended up not selling it to a developer, but she ended up donating it to the town, which had benefits not only for her financially, but benefits for the town in a huge way. And so if we can do that sort of thing, take a look at what land we have that we don't own as a town and individuals own, let's go to them. Let's try to get this, this property, quote unquote, in our hands as opposed to in the hands of developers. So that's where I stand.
Thank you. And our last question, we'll save the one about voting because we are the League of Women Voters. And this will be for Dr. Chow. New York passed and signed into law several bills that make it easier to vote in New York State. One will allow early voting by absentee ballot. The other bill creates same-day registration and voting as part of early voting. What is your view on these bills?
I think it's fine. We need to be able to vote. I vote, my son votes, my wife votes, my daughter votes. All the people in this room, I'm sure, vote. But we're very, very busy people. I know that when we only had one day to vote in the past, and I'm pretty sure Howard had trouble sometimes because we're in the hospital early in the morning and very late at night. Other people have the same issue in their careers. So the early voting has been huge. People who hadn't voted in the past are voting now. The issue of same-day registration, I suppose that's a good thing. I would just want it to be certain that there's no way to kind of game the system and fraudulently. I mean, that's a very short period of time to do same-day registration. But so long as all the documentation is there, they are a resident of, for example, for Niskayuna, if they're a resident of this town and they have all the proper documentation, there probably shouldn't be a reason why we can't have same-day registration.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McPartlin, how do you feel about the bills allowing early voting by absentee ballot and same-day registration?
I am in favor of those, as Jerome said, as long as the individual that presents themselves has the proper documentation and can prove that, yes, they are a resident of any town or municipality, we should have them voting. It's very, I find it upsetting, the rate and the percentage of people that are eligible to vote that don't vote. It's, if you really think about it, it's upsetting. In a country that is based on freedom and the ability to elect your officials and the number of people that just don't participate in our democracy, it's important that we do it. We have to vote, because if we don't vote and we don't participate in our democracy, we're going to have a hard time holding on to it. So anything that we can do to get people to the polls and to vote, I'm all in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. And now we are going to our closing statements, and we will start with Mr. McPartland for a 1-minute statement.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum this evening, and the residents for allowing me to serve for 2 terms here on the town board in Niskayuna. It's been a privilege to serve the residents of this town. We've got a very fine town, fine residents, and I've been very pleased to be able to serve them. During my time on the board, as I said, we have cut taxes. We've invested in infrastructure, and we've improved our parks and open spaces in the town. Protecting and keeping Niskayuna a great place to live, raise a family, come here and participate in our democratic process, those are important things to me. And that's why I'm running again for re-election. And I hope and I ask the voters for their support, and I will continue, if re-elected, to represent every resident in the town.
Thank you. And Dr. Chow, your closing statement.
Thank you again for having Mr. McPartland and I at the forum. With my private practice on autopilot and the children out of the home, and yes, we are staying in Niskayuna, I have a lot more time on my hands. And so I think the fact that I have more time on my hands gives me the ability to give back to the community in the way I want. As a Republican that's still married to a staunch Democrat, I feel like I've proven that bipartisanship is a viable relationship, and I feel it's an important one for this town. Bill, in his closing statement, said it's a democracy. It is a democracy. This country was created not for one party. Some people are saying that we should only have the Democratic Party in this country, which is why I'm staying Republican. We should have 2 parties in this country. And I would think that you would agree that it's actually better for the country and also better for the town to have multiple parties so that there are voices for everybody. My time's up. So if you have the desire to have some new and energetic blood here in the town hall in January, I encourage you to vote for me and vote for Bill too. Thank you.
All right, let's give a round of applause for our town board candidates. We'll bring our supervisor candidates up. Okay, it looks like we're all set to start with our town supervisor candidates. We have 2 candidates, Brian Backus and Jamie Puccioni. And we will start with an opening statement by Mr. Backus.
Thank you. Good evening, and thanks for staying. I guess I'll start there. I want to take the opportunity to thank the League of Women Voters from Niskayuna County for the invitation to be here tonight and for sponsoring the event as everybody said before us. We're well informed. Okay.
Do you want to start over?
Sure. I'm trying to be funny this time. Good evening. I want to take the opportunity to thank the Schenectady County League of Women Voters for the opportunity to be here tonight and for hosting this, because it is important. And a well-informed electorate is really critical to our democratic process. I spent my entire adult life in servant leadership to our nation, state, and community. Niskayuna has been my home since the fall of 2009 when I came home from my 4th overseas deployment from the Air Force. My service to our community includes the Niskayuna Planning Board from 2016 to 2018, the Niskayuna Board of Education from 2017 to 2022, confidential assistant to former Supervisor Syed from 2018 to 2021, and I currently serve on the Capital Region BOCES Board as a trustee since 2021. I volunteered my time with our twins, beginning on Zenner Road soccer fields, moving to Little League, travel basketball, youth football, high school football, basketball, and women's lacrosse. The twins are now both in college. I've organized fundraising events for Niskayuna football, for chicken barbecues. I've had the opportunity to manage or organize and lead multiple St. Baldrick's events, raising funds for pediatric cancer research when the DeBritz family passed the torch to me, and I was able to do that leading up to COVID. I'm running for town supervisor at a time when I think experienced leadership and budget experience are more important than ever. I have over 2 decades of leadership and budget building experience, thank you. I have a proven track record of collaboration and team building and accomplishing the mission of the military and also the mission of the Board of Education, while always being mindful of my fiduciary responsibility to the town and the residents. I make my decisions by listening to understand all viewpoints of the issue at hand before I make a decision. And those decisions are rooted in doing what's best for the Niskayuna residents. I look forward to tonight's questions and hopefully earning your trust and your vote for town supervisor.
Thank you. And Ms. Puccioni.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing this opportunity, and thank you, Colonel Backus, for your service to our nation. My name is Jamie Puccioni, and I am your town supervisor. I would also like to take a moment to thank my husband of 24 years, Marcus Puccioni, who is the principal at Shaker High School. I know you're busy, so thank you for being here. Together, we have made a wonderful home in our town, and we've raised our son, Michael, who is now a cadet at the United States Military Academy at West Point. I am honored that the voters put their trust in me two years ago. Niskayuna deserves and expects a leader who will continue to lead with collaboration and integrity. And I am the leader here now, and my record of results prove that I can continue to do that work. First and foremost, I brought stability and civility to Town Hall with my leadership style. I am a woman of action who gets things done. I led the town board in passing a bipartisan, balanced budget that did not raise taxes or use short-term bonding. I worked with Schenectady Metroplex to ensure we were supporting our town businesses and also recruiting new businesses to come and expand our commercial tax base. I have worked to improve policing and public safety and implemented new policies and practices like body-worn cameras. We have worked to recruit and retain new officers, and our morale is up. I'm committed to making our town an even better place to live. I have taken a systematic approach to making improvements to our town parks. We have maximized grant funds, stayed within our budgets, completed projects in a timely manner. And all of these accomplishments were made through teamwork. That is working with all of our department heads, that is working with community members, that is listening, learning, and building consensus to get things done. I would be honored to serve another term as your town supervisor.
Thank you. And we'll start the first question with Ms. Puccioni. Due to construction at Iroquois Middle School, homes in Seneca Manor have flooded, especially during and after heavy rain. What would you do to remediate this?
Yes. The first thing that I have done is meet with all of the stakeholders, the residents of Seneca Manor, the leadership in the school district, and our respective department heads. The Superintendent of Water and Sewer, Matt Yetto, the Superintendent of Highway and Transportation, Ray Smith, and our town planner, Laura Robertson. The first thing we needed to do was to collect all the information and analyze that data to understand the issue at hand. Then, as the town, we determined we needed to conduct an additional engineering study to better understand the drainage issues, not just on Seneca Road, but in the surrounding areas. So during this budget process, we will be allocating funds to pay for a drainage study to not only analyze flooding issues on Seneca Road, but also some flooding issues in Old Niskayuna. From there, we will identify solutions and look to implement.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, how would you address the flooding issues in Seneca Manor?
Well, first, it's not a new problem, and it's not a new problem related to the construction of this capital project. You can go back and talk to those residents. I actually walked that property with representatives from the town and Tony Lento from the school district when I was sitting on the school board before we even started that project. There's a wetland, protected wetland between the school district and River Road Park. There's a Girl Scout bridge, and you can all figure out how the Girl Scout bridge got there. When you walk on that Girl Scout bridge before the capital project started, there was 18 inches of clearance before the bridge, and it was full of sediment on the down lake side of that. So that was intended to be addressed and corrected during this capital project. So it's a combination of work between the school district and the town to actually fix that.
Okay, thank you. Next question for Mr. Backus. What is your perspective on land planning and business development for the town of Niskayuna?
Well, land planning starts with the town's comprehensive plan. And that comprehensive plan is updated every 10 years, and I believe we're about due for that right now. So that has to be addressed. We also need to look at what available space is there. Also need to look at what retail space within the town of Niskayuna is vacant or idle, and how do we attract people into those spaces. One of the things I have learned in the time I've been in the town of Niskayuna is that the president of the New York State Federation of Independent Businesses is a Niskayuna resident who lives in District 9. We've had a couple conversations, and I'm trying to gain her perspective on how to entice and invite businesses into the vacant retail space that we have.
Thank you. Ms. Puccioni, what is your perspective on land planning and business development in Niskayuna?
Well, as Councilmember Bill McPartland stated, we are almost at full build out. We need to approach growth in a smart way, protecting our green spaces, and we need to continue working on our comprehensive plan, which two of our community members here who are on that committee are working towards completing. With regard to business development, I have worked with Metroplex. We have brought new businesses to ShopRite Plaza. We have new businesses at the Co-op Plaza. My intention is to make Knott Street, Niskayuna's.
Support for the folks that are going to watch the video down the line. As I stated in my opening remarks, I think the time is now for experienced leadership in budget management, and I have that experience. From my time in the military and the planning board and the school board and 2 years working here in town hall for the supervisor, I think I'm that person that's ready to lead and help make that change to continue to move us forward. I'm ready to lead on January 1st. I'll continue to listen to my fellow Niskayuna neighbors 24/7 and do what's right for our community. I'm committed to clear, transparent communications and inclusive budgeting based upon the priorities that we will set together. That was a minute.
That was fast.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, let's give a round of applause. And I'd like to thank the audience for submitting such interesting questions and the candidates for taking the time to talk to us. And I'd like to remind the audience to vote. We will have early voting at the Honorable Karen Johnson Library in Schenectady, the South Schenectady Fire Station, the Glenville Senior Center, and Niskayuna Town Hall. All voters may vote at any of those early voting locations. Early voting will take place between October 28th and November 5th, and Election Day is November 7th. See you then.
Town politics, but really working for the town. I was on the planning board and the zoning board before the town board. I worked hard while on the board to keep the taxes down here in Niskayuna. In the years that I've been on the board, we've had years with 0 tax increases or very minimal increases of taxes at the town level. I've worked with 3 different supervisors here at the town. And during that time, we've continued to make improvements to the town with our facilities, our parks and programs and infrastructure. We've done this by securing grant monies. We've done this by being efficient with our own funds here in the town. And we've done this by using our very dedicated employees to do projects and to keep our town running as efficiently as possible. I'm running for re-election to keep our town one of the best places to live in the region. So, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And we will start the first question with Mr. McPartland. What are the 3 biggest issues you see facing the town, and how would you solve these issues?
So some of the big issues that I think are facing the town they're always sort of the same. It's trying to do as much as you can without increasing the tax burden on the residents. And we've done that, and I will continue to try to do that. Infrastructure is an issue. We've done a lot, and we spend money on infrastructure in the town. That is also an issue that is always sort of at the forefront in any small municipality like Niskayuna. Some of the county candidates did talk about public safety, and we have spent a lot of time and town resources to increase our public safety and to work on traffic and traffic control. We're working with the state on Troy Road, Balltown Road. We have issues with those roads that are in our town, and we need to really work on trying to do something about that.
Thank you. And Dr. Chow, what are the 3 biggest issues facing Niskayuna?
The 3 biggest issues, Bill's right, it's always the same things are talked about over and over again. One being taxes. It's expensive to live in Niskayuna. My kids are out of the house, but we're still going to live here and pay the school, and property taxes. So we have to kind of figure out what can we do about that to maintain a town that we love, which we do, but allow it to be affordable so that people aren't leaving this town and can't afford to live here. The 2 other things have the word safety in it, public safety and just safety overall. A lot of people aren't in this room today because there was just an accident on Route 7, Troy-Schenectady Road, and a bunch of people aren't able to get here because of that. We're having unbelievable numbers of accidents on Troy-Schenectady Road. Today, a car passed me on River Road, This is the 3rd car to do that on Rosendale Road and River Road. So that's very odd. And time's up. But the last thing would be public safety.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Chow, each community has a fund balance. What do you see as its purpose, and what would you do to protect it?
So, yeah, every town, every county, every city, they have fund balances, which is just an accumulation of cash, basically. And in this town, it is important to preserve it for those important things that do happen. Bill did talk about infrastructure in this place, and it seems like every other month that we have another water main break and things like that. If we get to the point where our budget isn't able to cover these things, then we have to utilize that type of money. But to the best of our abilities, I feel like the town has done a pretty good job protecting it, and we'll just continue maintaining that.
Thank you. And Mr. McPartland, what is the purpose of the fund balance, and what would you do to protect it?
So the purpose of the fund balance in a municipality is for that municipality to be on strong fiscal ground. We in Niskayuna have been very fortunate. We had a very good fund balance. But that does have its limitations. You cannot continue to increase your fund balance because then you're taking taxpayers' money and not using it at the proper time. So we have used some of our fund balance here in the town in some of the past budgets to reduce expenses for capital improvements. And we will continue to monitor the fund balance. We've also got a fund balance policy, which we did not have prior to me becoming on the town board. We have a fund balance policy that will keep the board and future boards within a parameters to make sure that the fund balance doesn't get either too high or too low.
Okay, thank
Where are
you.
your cards?
And we'll start the next question with Mr. McPartland. What were the values you identified with that were represented by the political party you chose?
So I chose to be on the Democratic Party when I decided to run for the town board. I felt that the principles that the Democratic Party put forth for myself and my family were ones of integrity and inclusivity of all voters and trying to represent all voters in our community. And that is something that I think we need to at least reevaluate some for, once you are an elected official, you're really representing every individual. And your party affiliation should not be coming into play. You represent every person, I do anyway, that's a resident of this town. Regardless if they're conservative, working families, Democrat, Republican, whatever party, once, you know, the process of being in a party, that's how we get elected in our country. But once you are, you serve all constituents.
Thank you. Dr. Chow, what were the values you identified with that were represented by the political party you chose?
So I've been a long life Republican, and that's part of the reason that I'm running as a Republican now. A lot of people would say that I'm not really a Republican based on a lot of the values that I have, but the value in particular that kept me here is two things: integrity and also fiscal conservatism. In terms of the integrity, I look back to, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this in this type of forum, but back when Reagan was the president and Tip O'Neill was the speaker, they were able to get together and be bipartisan. In this town, like Bill is saying, that's the way we have to be. It really doesn't matter if you're a Republican, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat in this town. You just have to be able to work with the other side, if we allow there to be another side, and do the things that are best for this town. I don't know that being a Republican in name is disqualifying me from being able to do that type of thing for Niskayuna. I'm not just gonna, you know, my wife is always asking me to become a Republican, I mean a Democrat, but I'm not just gonna switch just for the sake of switching. I'm gonna keep working on it so that we can be good Republicans again.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Chow, what is your perspective on land planning and business development for the town of Niskayuna?
Okay, so I think the town is doing a pretty good job at land development and also business planning. We've lived here for 20 years and things have changed significantly. You know, everybody in this room, I'm pretty sure, except for maybe a couple of the young ones, remember St. James Square, and now it's ShopRite Plaza, I think it is. I mean, it was empty for the longest time. Now we have the Broken Inn down the street, the co-op, all that is great. We are getting the grants, we are getting the planning that's necessary to make this town better. So there's nothing really that I think has to change. We just have to continue to be progressive and continue to improve things in this town.
Thank you. Mr. McPartland, what is your perspective on land planning and business development?
Well, in our town right now, land planning is very important. We're about 95% built out. So when builders and developers come and they talk to me anyway, I tell them there's nothing easy left in the town because we're built out, pretty close to it. So we have an excellent planning department, we have an excellent planning board. We have members on there that have been long-term members that are very conscientious of these things and are very good stewards of our land here in Niskayuna and making sure that any future developments are done right, and we use the input of our residents to do it in a way that they want. Business development, we've worked hard with Metroplex. When the SI group decided to leave out there on Balltown Road, that could have been a very big hit to the town and the town tax rolls. But with working with Metroplex, found another company to come in there. Those are the things that we have to pay attention to and be on top of.
Thank you. And the next question for Mr. McPartland. The recent administration voted to go over the tax cap. If you were to vote, what would your vote be and why?
That's a hypothetical, I guess, is that right?
Sounds hypothetical,
Yes.
Okay, hypothetical question. Knowing what the budget is for the town, being involved in that, I would vote no because we don't need to do that.
Short and sweet. Dr. Chow, if you were to vote, what would your vote be on going over the tax cap?
Since he took only 15 seconds, a minute and 45. No, my answer would be no. There's no reason why we have to get to the tax cap. There's no reason why we can't decrease taxes in the town. I worked at 2 major hospitals, and one of the things that bothered me every year with the budget was when some of the supervisors would say, you know what, we still have $20,000 we have to spend 20 grand. If we don't spend that 20 grand, we're not going to get that 20 grand next year. So what do you want to buy? And they go, oh, I'll buy a laser. How about we get a laser? Yeah, okay. So that type of thing is waste. I don't know if it happens in the town. Bill would know far better than me. But Rensselaer was able to lower their taxes. So why can't Niskayuna? So we should be able to take a look at these things very, very carefully and see where the waste is. And I was just kidding about taking this 45 seconds. But and try to stay below the cap or decrease our tax.
To determine their reproductive choice, as well as expanding voting rights. At the town level, the way my democratic alignment guides me is by supporting our residents who are passionate about the environment, supporting our residents who are passionate about reproductive health and protecting Bellevue Hospital. It also shows in the way that I collaborate with everyone in town hall. I don't care what party you are, I will work with everyone, and I do work with everyone.
Thank you. Ms. Puccioni, what would you do to support public safety in Niskayuna?
Well, since I have a son who's training to become an Army officer, I feel very aligned with first responders, police officers, firefighters. And one of the first things I did was to help improve morale in our police department. And that began with resolving a retirement issue for 4 of our finest officers who were not in a retirement system that was aligned with their peers. I've implemented new policies and practices to support our officers. I have fully funded our department. We have recruited and retained quality officers, again, building morale. And I meet and work with them regularly. I listen to their needs. I hold them accountable. I hold them to high expectations. And I will continue to do that to improve policing and public safety in town.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, what will you do to support public safety in Niskayuna?
Well, I will start out by saying that I had the privilege of facilitating the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative when I worked for Supervisor Syed here. So a lot of the initiatives that came out of those discussions with the community and that plan moving forward were very helpful and instrumental in driving us toward community policing and improving the things that we're doing here, such as the body-worn cameras. The opportunity to look at different cameras was going on while I was still here, so I'm glad that's actually come to fruition. I know there's a survey out now looking for community policing, and how does the police department feel, how do the residents feel they're dealing with the police department as a community? I would continue to work with the Police and Public Safety Committee, with our residents and the rest of our community to do what I can to improve that relationship and the efforts of our police officers, firefighters, and EMS here in Niskayuna.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, how can we support local businesses to help them stay open?
Shopping local. That's really what it's all about, and I've done that my entire life, whatever community I've been in. I will say, I don't discriminate against any of the local businesses because we shop as a family at ShopRite, Price Chopper, and the Co-op. We go to Mario's and we go to the Broken Inn. You know, we try to invest as many of our dollars with community businesses as we possibly can. I know you find this hard to believe, but I actually invest my time and dollars with local barbers as well. So I know it doesn't look like I need to do that, but I still do that. So that's how we do that. When we try to incentivize those folks and try to help them be successful and do what we can to support those local businesses.
Thank you. Ms. Puccioni, how can we support local businesses to help them stay open?
I think it's all about building place, helping our community stay local and shop local, eat local. And part of the way we have done that is what we did at the Co-op Plaza with the work in Schenectady County. The legislators, Michelle Osterlich, was a lead person who helped improve the parking, the walkability, the safety. We are now adding furniture to the Co-op Plaza, trash receptacles, additional lighting. Again, the goal is to bring that feeling from ShopRite, from the Co-op Plaza to the ShopRite Plaza, all the way down to Town Hall, and really make Knott Street feel like the small town Main Street it really should be.
Thank you. Ms. Puccioni, both town supervisor candidates have experience in town hall. Explain how your leadership style impacted town government, and please provide examples.
I would describe my leadership style as one of collaboration, listening, learning, integrity, doing the right thing, even when it's a really hard decision. I listen and I work with our department heads. We meet regularly. Every week, I have individual meetings with each department head. We also meet collaboratively across departments, so they are no longer working in silos, but they're working together. I listen to their ideas and I leverage their strengths. I help them to reach their potential. That's the way I see my role as being town supervisor and leadership. What has happened as a result is a more welcoming and inclusive town hall where people are accessible and they enjoy working together.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, explain how your leadership style impacted town government and provide examples.
Well, I can't really say that my leadership style impacted town government because as a confidential assistant to the supervisor, I didn't have any authority or responsibility. What I will tell you is that the time I spent working for the town supervisor, I sat in on almost every committee, monthly committee meetings, and met with all the department heads and worked with those departments on a daily basis. I answered the phone for residents and did what I could to help resolve resident issues or pass them to the right individual to get the answer they were looking for. As I said earlier, the supervisor asked me to facilitate the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. I was happy to do that. During COVID, I was here every day, opening the building, pulling in the mail, doing the things that needed to do to help the town continue the business of the town so that we could still do the things that we needed to do. My leadership style varies with the situation. I'm a very collaborative leader, and you could attest to that by the folks I've served with on the school boards and across my history of work. But, well, there's that.
Okay, and this will be our last question, starting with Mr. Backus. Since the town is 95% built out, what steps will you take to preserve the remaining undeveloped spaces?
Well, as I said earlier, I think it starts with the comprehensive plan, and it starts with taking input from the residents. What they're looking for, what they're not looking for, and what's going to work. If I'm fortunate enough to be the next town supervisor in Niskayuna, it's my intent to hold monthly town hall meetings with the residents and invite them in to get their input on a monthly basis. We'll do it at various times, we'll do it at various days so that we can get as many people as possible to hear as many different voices to get the input. That's where I'll start. As far as the comprehensive plan, that needs to be updated so that we know what is left. I know Bill said we're built out 95%, but we need to see what's out there and what can be repurposed or what can be redone. Walmart built a shopping store in Mansion Square. I think it was open for less than a year, and now it sits idle and vacant doing absolutely nothing. So there's got to be a way to repurpose those things. So I think working with our county leaders and the state leaders, and I'm out of time again, so there's that.
Thank you. Ms. Puccioni, what steps will you take to preserve the remaining undeveloped spaces?
Well, first I started with research. I wanted to understand what other municipalities are doing. What I came to learn is that Bethlehem created a reserve fund to save money, which allowed them to purchase farmlands. So when the farms were being sold, instead of being sold to developers, the town was able to purchase those lands. I think that's something the town needs to consider, our residents need to consider, how and when we should build a reserve fund for that purpose. And as I stated earlier, the comprehensive plan is currently being revised, and our team is collecting data and analyzing that data as we speak. I'm glad you brought up Metroplex because I'm glad you brought up Walmart because I've met with Metroplex to discuss possible uses of that facility, one of which might be a new community center.
Thank you. And now it's time for closing statements. Ms. Puccioni will go first.
Thank you. So once again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this event. I know it takes a lot of effort to organize anything and to herd all of us cats too. I really enjoyed my opportunity to discuss my record of results, my work in collaborating with others, and I just really would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to acknowledge that all of these accomplishments would not be possible if it weren't for our town employees and our community volunteers who serve on boards and committees. It has been an immense honor and pleasure to work with our town employees, our town board members, and our committee members. Honestly, our accomplishments together have been some of my most treasured memories, so thank you. I'm excited about the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead, and I am committed to leading positive change for another 2 years in Niskayuna.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, your closing statement.
So I want to start by again thanking the League of Women Voters for tonight's event. I think it's incredibly important for folks to hear what we have to say and why we think we're the best fit for what we're doing. And I want to thank all of you for coming tonight, because I know there's a whole lot of other things you could be doing on a Thursday night than coming and doing this. And you chose to do this because it is important. And
Main Street by adding additional furniture to build a placemaking, to add historic lighting, and to add banners to acknowledge our veterans. I really feel strongly that we need to have a central Main Street for our town. We need to continue to attract businesses here, and we need to support the businesses who are currently here.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, what will you do as town supervisor to reduce the speed and help with traffic in Niskayuna?
well, I think reducing the speed is really a process. It's a conversation, and some of this was addressed earlier. We have state roads and county roads here in Niskayuna. So I think effective enforcement of the speed limits. The chief has talked about traffic calming measures and Knott Street. One of the toughest accidents, I think, in recent years on Knott and Dean was a car traveling down Knott Street that actually flipped a minivan at the corner of Dean and Knott. So it's not just Route 7, and it's not just Balltown Road, it's roads in town. And if any of you live in the old Niskayuna side of town, as we do, you know that every side street to Balltown Road is a cut through and a racetrack to get above all the traffic lights to be able to get to Providence or get to Rosa Road and move along from there. So I think it's effective policing. I think it's having those conversations with the community. I will say, I think I'm out of time. We can talk more about that later.
And I think I skipped somebody here. Did I ask Mr. Backus about land planning and business development?
Yes.
Good. Then I did not skip. Did I ask Ms. Puccioni about traffic speed?
Yeah.
Okay, there we are. Thank you. So what will you do to reduce the speed and help with traffic?
Well, as town supervisor, I have worked closely with Police Chief Koshin to address traffic issues in town. It first begins with analyzing data. Whenever we have a concern about traffic from a resident, we assign an officer to conduct a traffic study. We then use that data to develop traffic engagement strategies. We have targeted patrols at different locations at different times. I will also be funding additional police positions to reestablish a traffic division in our police department. Now, with regard to two major thoroughways in our town, we are bisected by two state highways, Route 7 and Route 146. Route 7 has seen an unfortunate increase in deaths and crashes. I have already reached out to the Department of Transportation to have a traffic study conducted, which we have received the results, and we will be meeting with them to consider different traffic calming measures. I'm also working with Assemblymember Steck to introduce legislation to lower the speed limit on Route 7.
Okay, now we're starting a new question, right? Okay.
We are.
All right, Ms. Puccioni, the town of Niskayuna allows several different companies to pick up garbage. Now, Niskayuna promotes itself as a green community. Wouldn't it be more environmentally friendly to put the service up for bid and have one company picking up trash?
That's an interesting question. I would be interested in having a discussion about that. I do not have a particular stance. I do know that there are residents who like choice, because choice has competition, and competition means different prices, and that means better opportunities for our residents to make a choice about who they want to pick up their trash. While I do recognize having one company would reduce the traffic on our roadways, and that traffic, those heavy truck traffic, it does create wear and tear on our roads, particularly on the side of the roads that we do need to maintain. So it is worth a discussion, and I think it's something that the community should engage in.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, what are your views on putting out to bid trash pickup?
Well, I think before the town would do a request for a proposal for trash pickup, you'd really want to solicit the input from all the residents in this unit before you make that decision. I also think competition in business is a good thing. So having that competition, having that choice for people is a good thing. Similar to yard waste pickup in this unit. You can opt into yard waste, or you can opt out of yard waste. And the town will come by and pick up your yard waste if you pay that fee, and if you don't pay that fee, they mark your driveway and they don't pick the yard waste up for you. So it's about individual choice, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Backus, the next question. Taxes are high in Niskayuna. As town supervisor, what would you do to help lower taxes?
Well, I've said since I got into this race, to be honest with you, that we need to look at what we're really good at in Niskayuna and what we can share services, or what services we can share in with who. I would be willing to explore intermunicipal agreements with Schenectady County, Glenville, if we have to be able to find the things we're good at, where can we share services, and where can we cut costs. That would be the first thing I would look at. The second thing I would look at is, we say that we're not raising taxes here and we're keeping things flat, or I think Bill came up with a number at 2.5 at one point. But what we do here is we raise fees. You build your budget based on, we as a family build our budget based on what we know our taxes are going to be and how things are going to work. Yet your water rates, your sewer rates, and your transfer station fees all went up in June. Not when the budget was passed, but in June. So people didn't have an opportunity to plan for that because that was cost at the residents of town. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Puccioni, what would you do to help lower taxes in town?
Well, as town supervisor, as I previously shared, I put forward and passed a unanimous budget that did not raise taxes and did not use short-term borrowing. The reality is costs are increasing for everyone, including the town. The cost of doing business is increasing. We work incredibly hard to stretch every dollar. We use grant funds incredibly well. We do a lot of work in-house to stretch all of our dollars. I'll give an example. Right outside here, our patio had been crumbling for over a decade. I asked the departments, give me a creative solution. How can we fix this? In $10,000, they completely fixed the patio, whereas the estimate to complete the project previously was $80,000. Getting creative, leaning on your team, and asking everybody to contribute to solutions is one way that I lower our costs and keep taxes flat.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Puccioni, what does environmental sustainability mean to you, and how would you make the town be more sustainable?
Environmental sustainability means taking care of Mother Earth. She's the only one we have. So as town supervisor, I work collaboratively with Bill McPartland, Councilmember McPartland, to ensure that our wastewater treatment plant was up and running as intended, which means processing organic waste so our plant could operate at net zero. Processing organic waste, we are able to create methane gas, which we use to fuel our plant. We've added new charging stations to all of our town parks. We've initiated a low-mo initiative that was driven by residents. We have a pesticide-free pledge. We have a quiet Niskayuna pledge, both of which were advocated by our residents. We listened and we support their efforts. We also will be launching a new composting program. It's all about working together to take care of our earth.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, what does environmental sustainability mean to you, and how would you promote that?
Well, this is where I'll agree with the supervisor. We really are just stewards of the land that we're here for the time that we're here. So the things we can do to reduce our carbon footprint here and be more environmentally conscious are all great things. And the programs that she's outlined that have happened over the last couple of years are fantastic. During my time with the Niskayuna School Board, we worked with the Complete Streets Committee. And during this capital project, we're still having those conversations with the Complete Streets Committee on how to make it more walkable from the neighborhoods to the schools, or from the schools through River Road Park to the bike path, so that kids can actually bike back and forth to school as well. And Bill Chapman's been leading those efforts for a long time. We also need to find ways to cut waste generation. And I think that's incredibly important.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Backus, what factors went into your choice of political party? What were the values you identified? I like this question, so I keep asking. What were the values you identified with that were represented by the political party you chose?
Well, it seems that Dr. Chow and I are about the same age, so I'll start there. I grew up in Western New York in Livingston County, which is primarily a Republican county. I joined the military straight out of high school, and I will tell you that Ronald Reagan, it was one of the first presidents I served under, of the 7 I served under while I was in the military. The Republican Party believes in a strong national defense, believes in conservative taxation and budgeting, and those are the things that I continue to believe in. So I think public safety and defense and taking care of our community is highly important. I also think that, and I will say, this is another place where Jerry and I agree, there's a lot of people that don't believe I'm a Republican. because of my values. I mean, I'm also married to a Democrat. We get along quite well. I believe in social programs and social issues because I think we need to be compassionate and help take care of people that need help and assistance. Thank you very much.
Ms. Puccioni, what factors went into your choice of political party and what were the values you identified with?
Well, I am a registered Democrat. I've been a registered Democrat my entire life. I explain to people I consider myself a moderate Democrat. I support inclusion, diversity, workers' rights. I'm a lifelong union member. I support environmental protections, women's right to determine their reproductive choice, as well as expanding voting rights. At the town level, the way my Democratic alignment guides me is by supporting our residents who are passionate about the environment, supporting our residents who are passionate about reproductive health and protecting Bellevue Hospital. It also shows in the way that I collaborate with everyone in Town Hall. I don't care what party you are, I will work with everyone, and I do work with everyone.
Thank you. Ms. Puccioni, what would you do to support public safety in Niskayuna?
Well, since I have a son who's training to become an Army officer, I feel very aligned with first responders, police officers, firefighters. And one of the first things I did was to help improve morale in our police department. And that began with resolving a retirement issue for 4 of our finest officers who were not in a retirement system that was aligned with their peers. I've implemented new policies and practices to support our officers. I have fully funded our department. We have recruited and retained quality officers, again, building morale. And I meet and work with them regularly. I listen to their needs. I hold them accountable. I hold them to high expectations. And I will continue to do that to improve policing and public safety in town.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, what will you do to support public safety in Niskayuna?
Well, I will start out by saying that I had the privilege of facilitating the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative when I worked for Supervisor Syed here. So a lot of the initiatives that came out of those discussions with the community and that plan moving forward were very helpful and instrumental in driving us toward community policing and improving the things that we're doing here, such as the body-worn cameras. The opportunity to look at different cameras was going on while I was still here, so I'm glad that's actually come to fruition. I know there's a survey out now looking for community policing, and how does the police department feel, how the residents feel they're dealing with the police department as a community. I would continue to work with the Police and Public Safety Committee, with our residents and the rest of our community to do what I can to improve that relationship and the efforts of our police officers, firefighters, and EMS here in Niskayuna.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, how can we support local businesses to help them stay open?
Shopping local. That's really what it's all about, and I've done that my entire life, whatever community I've been in. I will say I don't discriminate against any of the local businesses because we shop as a family at ShopRite, Price Chopper, and the Co-op. We go to Mario's and we go to the Broken Inn. We try to invest as many of our dollars with community businesses as we possibly can. I know you find this hard to believe, but I actually invest my time and dollars with local barbers as well. So I know it doesn't look like I need to do that, but I still do that. That's how we do that. When we try to incentivize those folks and try to help them be successful and do what we can to support those local businesses.
Thank you. Ms. Puccioni, how can we support local businesses to help them stay open?
I think it's all about building place, helping our community stay local and shop local, eat local. And part of the way we have done that is what we did at the Co-op Plaza with the work in Schenectady County. The legislators, Michelle Osterlich, was a lead person who helped improve the parking, the walkability, the safety. We are now adding furniture to the Co-op Plaza, trash receptacles, additional lighting. Again, the goal is to bring that feeling from ShopRite, from the Co-op Plaza to the ShopRite Plaza, all the way down to Town Hall, and really make Knott Street feel like the small town Main Street it really should be.
Thank you. Ms. Puccioni, both town supervisor candidates have experience in town hall. Explain how your leadership style impacted town government, and please provide examples.
I would describe my leadership style as one of collaboration, listening, learning, integrity, doing the right thing, even when it's a really hard decision. I listen and I work with our department heads. We meet regularly. Every week, I have individual meetings with each department head. We also meet collaboratively across departments, so they are no longer working in silos, but they're working together. I listen to their ideas and I leverage their strengths. I help them to reach their potential. That's the way I see my role as being town supervisor and leadership. What has happened as a result is a more welcoming and inclusive town hall where people are accessible and they enjoy working together.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, explain how your leadership style impacted town government and provide examples.
Well, I can't really say that my leadership style impacted town government because as a confidential assistant to the supervisor, I didn't have any authority or responsibility. What I will tell you is that the time I spent working for the town supervisor, I sat in on almost every committee, monthly committee meetings, and met with all the department heads and worked with those departments on a daily basis. I answered the phone for residents and did what I could to help resolve resident issues or pass them to the right individual to get the answer they were looking for. As I said earlier, the supervisor asked me to facilitate the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. I was happy to do that. During COVID, I was here every day, opening the building, pulling in the mail, doing the things that needed to do to help the town continue the business of the town so that we could still do the things that we needed to do. My leadership style varies with the situation. I'm a very collaborative leader, and you could attest to that by the folks I've served with on the school boards and across my history of work. But, well, there's that.
Okay, and this will be our last question, starting with Mr. Backus. Since the town is 95% built out, what steps will you take to preserve the remaining undeveloped spaces?
Well, as I said earlier, I think it starts with the comprehensive plan, and it starts with taking input from the residents. What they're looking for, what they're not looking for, and what's going to work. If I'm fortunate enough to be the next town supervisor in Niskayuna, it's my intent to hold monthly town hall meetings with the residents and invite them in to get their input on a monthly basis. We'll do it at various times, we'll do it at various days so that we can get as many people as possible to hear as many different voices to get the input. That's where I'll start. As far as the comprehensive plan, that needs to be updated so that we know what is left. I know Bill said we're built out 95%, but we need to see what's out there and what can be repurposed or what can be redone. Walmart built a shopping store in Mansion Square. I think it was open for less than a year, and now it sits idle and vacant doing absolutely nothing. So there's got to be a way to repurpose those things. So I think working with our county leaders and the state leaders, and I'm out of time again, so there's that.
Thank you. Ms. Puccioni, what steps will you take to preserve the remaining undeveloped spaces?
Well, first I started with research. I wanted to understand what other municipalities are doing. what I came to learn is that Bethlehem created a reserve fund to save money, which allowed them to purchase farmlands. So when the farms were being sold, instead of being sold to developers, the town was able to purchase those lands. I think that's something the town needs to consider, our residents need to consider, how and when we should build a reserve fund for that purpose. And as I stated earlier, the comprehensive plan is currently being revised, and our team is collecting data and analyzing that data as we speak. I'm glad you brought up Metroplex because I'm glad you brought up Walmart because I've met with Metroplex to discuss possible uses of that facility, one of which might be a new community center.
Thank you. And now it's time for closing statements. Ms. Puccioni will go first.
Thank you. So once again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this event. I know it takes a lot of effort to organize anything and to herd all of us cats too. I really enjoyed my opportunity to discuss my record of results, my work in collaborating with others, and I just really would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to acknowledge that all of these accomplishments would not be possible if it weren't for our town employees and our community volunteers who serve on boards and committees. It has been an immense honor and pleasure to work with our town employees, our town board members, and our committee members. Honestly, our accomplishments together have been some of my most treasured memories, so thank you. I'm excited about the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead, and I am committed to leading positive change for another 2 years in Niskayuna.
Thank you. Mr. Backus, your closing statement.
So I want to start by again thanking the League of Women Voters for tonight's event. I think it's incredibly important for folks to hear what we have to say and why we think we're the best fit for what we're doing. And I want to thank all of you for coming tonight, because I know there's a whole lot of other things you could be doing on a Thursday night than coming and doing this. And you chose to do this because it is important. And it's important for the folks that are going to watch the video down the line. As I stated in my opening remarks, I think the time is now for experienced leadership in budget management, and I have that experience. From my time in the military and the planning board and the school board and 2 years working here in town hall for the supervisor, I think I'm that person that's ready to lead and help make that change to continue to move us forward. I'm ready to lead on January 1st. I'll continue to listen to my fellow Niskayuna neighbors 24/7 and do what's right for our community. I'm committed to clear, transparent communications and inclusive budgeting based upon the priorities that we will set together. That was a minute.
That was fast.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, let's get a round of applause. And I'd like to thank the audience for submitting such interesting questions and the candidates for taking the time to talk to us. And I'd like to remind the audience to vote. We will have early voting at the Honorable Karen Johnson Library in Schenectady, the South Schenectady Fire Station, the Glenville Senior Center, and Niskayuna Town Hall. All voters may vote at any of those early voting locations. Early voting will take place between October 28th and November 5th, and Election Day is November 7th. See you then.